to subliminal music for ADD to help reduce my ADD.
Right.
How quickly does the Queen Anne's Lace work? Could I take some before bed and then listen to it overnight?
Yeah, absolutely. Give it a try.
Or does it have to be in?
I know how to work in that situation. Yeah. Usually it works pretty quick. It may take a person within, I would say a week, or is going, but yeah, what, and little bits and pieces are starting to come in. But I would give it a good 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah, 21 days at least. If not 28, you were talking about, you like 28, but do 28. And see how it does. That's really helpful. So it's like really one of my top 5 herbs, but what can I not do with it? What do you think?
Stop blood.
No, I can't think of really, not much I couldn't do with Queen Anne's Lace. It's that important herb. I've always, when I started going to herb conferences and talking to other herbalists, I was like shocked nobody was using it. Like, how could you go without Queen Anne's Lace?
Yeah, Dr. Christopher people use it, but not the other Western herbalists.
No, it was just shocking. Right, it's growing everywhere, dummies. Pick up a plunder, look outside. I mean, everywhere I went,
Just like the yard in my yard keep
There was a lot less than 15 years ago.
Well, I went out to teach, I was probably 15 years ago at Michael Moore School out Southwest. I was a guest teacher up there. And I arrived one day, I was teaching the next. And so Donna picked me up at the airport, and we went back to the herb school, and we got there in time for the end of Michael's lecture. And so I'm sitting there listening to Michael, who I just think, who is an amazing herbalist. I always thought the world of him. And he said, all right, I'm going to end on Queen Anne's Lace Wall Carrot. No use in the story. Turn it off. And I'm like, Michael, I'm talking about that tomorrow. It's the main herb. I'm talking about that tomorrow. That's sassafras. And he was like, you use Queen Anne's Lace. He said I might actually have to listen to a guest teacher. Because usually that was his day off. So, he did come in and listen, and he started investigating, because Michael was really a good researcher, and he was like, oh, wow, you did use it for this, and Dr. Christopher, so it was really eye-opening for him, but it's an amazing herb, It's a good one to be plant allies with, do you good. Any questions? Okay.
Like you say, how can you not use it? It's in the south, it's in the north, it's in the east, it's in the west. It's
everywhere.
Just fields of it.
It's yelling at you.
Yeah, it is.
It is. Wait,
I'm over here.
Yeah. It's like, how could you have forgotten about
As
me?
we become less and less, and as we become dysfunctional
Right.
society.
Yeah, maybe that's why there's more and more Queen Anne's Lace. It's like every other person has an endocrine issue.
Like, it was not around when I studied botany when I was 20. We didn't never even study it. It's just not around. It's like, how could that be? Now it's everywhere. Even when I moved to my farm in 1992, I had to transplant it there. Now I can't really think of any field anywhere.
Right. Along the ditches and roadsides, it is everywhere. Big swaths over in there. So, one of the, it is, it's a message in Native American and Southern folk medicine. If the plant is there, it's because it's needed. That plant's there and you pay attention. There's no telling how many times I've driven by people's houses where they spray their lawns to get rid of the weeds. And I know that they have liver problems, and the only thing growing is the dandelion. It's made it through the herbicide, and it's like, it's there for you. It's like, my grandmother did, when she made a lot of house calls, she never carried any herbs with her. She just went in, assessed the situation, and went out the back door and got it. She dried some herbs if it was wintertime. She would go in and assess the situation and send somebody back to get whatever she decided she needed from the house, but she didn't carry the herbs around with her, because probably, I would say 8 or 9 months of the year, she could just get it. It was what was growing. The herb that was growing in abundance in a person's backyard was the one that needed. And 9 times out of 10, that's what she would use. And she paid attention to that message.
I'll ask clients what's growing in their yard.
It's a good thing to do. And then a lot of times they go, I don't know.
But then they do, but sometimes, they do,
Yeah,
But I'll ask them, what they have.
yeah. All right, that's Queen Anne's Lace, Another Earth.
Gee, I was thinking of rabbit tobacco because we got some interesting history, you and I, on that one. Plus it's a fall rail
Does it
one, and
grow
I heard
here?
you guys were talking about it before, I believe. Yeah, it just barely grows into Minnesota. It grows quite easily in Wisconsin. Do you have it around here?
Well, what's another name for it? I'm thinking
Early Everlasting? Or
Yeah.
right,
Sweet Everlasting.
Sweet Everlasting, which is,
You don't have that here?
yeah, we do.
Yeah, okay.
Well, not as much as I've
There's a Early
seen.
Everlasting, but it's like the Western version.
Mhm.
Yeah, Pearly Everlasting. Well, there is only one Pearly Everlasting all over the whole country, and that can be used as a substitute, but rabbit tobacco just barely makes it into Minnesota, but this part of Minnesota is pretty far east, so one would expect it here. Like sandy soil, so it's going to be on your river outwash plains and these kinds of
Like it's by the cross in West Salem and all over it.
Yeah, actually a little bit more on the Wisconsin side, because they got that sandy land in the middle of the state that washes down the rivers. Yeah, so let's see, so it's called rabbit tobacco, it's called Sweet Everlasting. And so, let's see, I can't remember, learned about this from Paul. Paul and Iago both, and they had an argument about it, kind of, because Paul's much more careful about using it. Iago just wanted to use it all the time. Iago's grandmother used it in her pipe smoking mixture, which Paul would never do. And so we were having a fun conversation about it. But Paul taught about it one time, and he said, so I have to think about this in Lakota first. I can't think of the words in English. Stop for 2-3 seconds. And he said, a walker between the worlds. This remedy helps after people die and they haven't been able to hand down a legacy. He said they can haunt the family or hang around because it's not worked out. It's not finished. This is not finished business. This remedy helps finish that business. And it's called Walker Between the Worlds. It has this idea because this is one of the very few plants you pick after it dies. In September, late September, October, it dies, and then if it mists or rains on it or fogs on it, it like opens up and it releases this beautiful scent, this vanilla like beautiful scent. So it's alive after it's dead. So they thought of it that way. He also said, don't pick it where there's been bloodshed or any kind of really bad psychic happenings. And I would even say if you, I'd bring it inside the house, so you wouldn't always do that, but if you have some bad experience near it, then you have to get rid of it because it will pick that up. It's very psychic. Again, it's like cloud medicine. It does have that appearance of cloud medicine, but it's rabbit medicine. It's called rabbit tobacco, tobacco of the spirit, communication with the spirit, that's a cloud thing. So it's got rabbit and cloud qualities to it. And so you pick it, it has that nice scent. He said, leave it outside for a year or two. I'd leave it, or he said to me 6 months, but I leave it out for a couple months. But that is also good because a lot of fluff comes off it that kind of messes up your house if you bring it inside. Once you bring it inside, it will open when the water is more atmosphere, more barometric pressure changes and things, and it'll open sometimes. And it just, you're walking like, oh God, it's so beautiful. This will last for 4, 5, 6 years. It'll do that. So it's really, really kind of beautiful. It's called a posy. That's the English word meaning a plant you bring inside for the smell. Old-fashioned word. And it is, so those are kind of background things on it. Let's see, it's very, very vanilla-like smell. Make a tincture, you can make a tea either way from the dried, dead phone tops on, upper 10 inches. You pick it so you don't pull it out of the ground. So it grows on sandy soil. So it's, let's see, uses are galore. So I looked up in Culpeper, he says the people in Kent use this for head colds. So I was taking classes in Scotland. One of the women was an herbalist from Kent. Nobody else in England knew anything about it. I asked her, do you guys still use this? She said, oh yeah, the people always come in the herb shop, want to get the cudweed, they call it, that's the English name. And they still want to get it for head colds and things like that. And so there it is still. It's just like Culpeper said. They're using it in Kent, but hardly anywhere else. Kent's kind of sandy though too, because it's near the ocean, river. So, so I learned about it, started using it for head colds, allergies, asthma. Let's see, it was always in the books for asthma. Well, this is how I originally got onto it, the very first thing I had. It was always in the books for asthma, but like numerous things are in there for asthma. It's like, when are you going to believe what this book over that? It's no indications at all. But I was teaching a class down in Magayville, Virginia, and near the Blue Ridge. So it is a little bit more of a southern remedy, not exclusively, but it is much more popular in the south. And it's undoubtedly a Cherokee remedy. It's a Russian remedy and a Cherokee remedy. Those are the two cultures that really love the plant are the Russians, the Cherokees, and the Kentians. But, Kentish. But, so she said, yeah, I had asthma from birth to age 7, and then I was totally cured by rabbit tobacco, by sweet everlasting or rabbit tobacco, whatever she called it. And I was like, I perked up, because, well, you don't just cure congenital asthma every day. I was like, holy cow. So I said, could you show me the plant? We hunted around Netherlands, and she found it a little bit. She said, yeah, when her mother would give her white pine cough syrup, but that didn't cure her. It would help her expectorate. But then the neighbor who was a naturalist, she said, this is up on the Blue Ridge, he collected a bunch of it, and his wife made it into a pillow, and they gave it to her, and she slept with it for the next year until it was tattered. And there's something psychological here. She said it was mine, 5 brothers and sisters for 7 years, like no toys were enough, and Blue Ridge Farm, and it was her. And a year later it was in tatters, but she was completely cured. And it remained that way. So, wow. Again, using it for respiratory problems, immune problems. Then Phyllis added that it's kind of antiviral used in the South, which makes sense and fits right in there. And Tommy Bass mentioned it too. So I started researching it like that, using it more and more for respiratory deep congenital things. Now, if you think about it, the congenital problem is just like what Paul described. It's just like what Paul described, where somebody didn't get the whole genetic blueprint, A legacy did not get passed on. And one of the best cases illustrating this was a little girl, patient, or a client, long-term client, the mother, she had colitis. She got real bad colitis after delivering her 3rd child, which is another story. It cured that. That was great. But she had to stop lactation at 5 weeks. So daughter got really deprivation, really had some nervousness from that, withdrawal from that. But also, she always had a weak respiratory system. She easily gets constipation, and one gets the idea. And I thought, well, and I could never help her. Years went by. Other homeopaths tried. Other people, nothing ever helped her. Finally, one day, desperately, her mother brought her out, and she was 11, and she was missing school. But by this time, I knew about rabbit tobacco, and I thought, congenital. She had stopped lactation at 5 weeks. Like, she probably didn't get something in her mother's milk, So almost from birth, like just not getting some enzyme or something. And so I gave rabbit tobacco, and that was the first thing that ever really helped her tremendously. And she's been on and off that she's 15 now, but she's much, much healthier. She still needs it sometimes. It didn't help with constipation, but it's helped with the respiratory problem a great deal. So that was kind of that's kind of where it stood, and I went down to visit Phil. So just after Paul had taught this class about Walker Between the Worlds and all about legacies not being passed on and stuff, I went down to visit Phyllis, and I told her all about the plant, but I called it Sweet Everlasting. And then that night she had a dream, and you want to describe the dream?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So she had a astrological mentor when she was in her 20s, and he died, and his ex-wife, not current wife, his ex-wife was very grasping, and he left some books for Phyllis, but she took them all, and Phyllis didn't get them. So in the dream, he came and he said, I have to go to another place now, but I have a gift for you, and this pile of books. And she said, and so, you know, and then he went on. And so, and that plant you were talking about was helping the connection with him, only it's what we call rabbit tobacco.
Right.
And I said, oh, that's
Same
what,
plant.
that's, yeah.
I never heard it called so you're relaxing. I don't know.
So there, it did its job. So, other stuff on it?
Yeah. It has they got the name Rabbit Tobacco in the South for a couple of reasons. And the name, in addition to the Cherokees, all the Native Americans in the South use rabbit tobacco. It's very, very common. As a matter of fact, it's one of the few wild herbs they still gather and sell in powwows. It's that important a Native American plant all across the South. That and yellow root. So it's called rabbit tobacco for a couple of reasons. One was because it doesn't look too dissimilar from native true wild tobacco. Because wild tobacco only gets about this tall. You know, it's not a very big plant. It has slightly silvery leaves, and it's not very thick leaves. So from a distance, they have a similarity. They don't grow in the same place. Wild tobacco needs shade, a little more shade, where rabbit tobacco needs like full sun and sandy soil. So there is that. And then also it was a smoking plant. It was a smoking herb. And if you had asthma, you smoked rabbit tobacco. It went straight to the lungs. It opened the lungs right up. If you had a cough, you smoked rabbit tobacco. And it was called tobacco because you smoked it the way you did tobacco. And wild tobacco is slightly hallucinogenic. But rabbit tobacco isn't, so it's considered weaker, more jumpy like a rabbit. So it became rabbit tobacco. So it was.
That's the third explanation for it.
Oh, really? Okay, so it was the herb that every teenager snuck off in the South, dried, and smoked. It was your introduction to smoking periods. It was like, yeah, we're going to get some rabbit tobacco. Maybe it's behind the barn. It was like something you were sneaking off and doing. It was like a rite of passage for for anybody. Go smoke some rabbit tobacco, and it didn't get you high. It was the thrill of to get off and do something. But it does really open lungs, and it does this best when you smoke it. So it ended up in a lot of smoking blends. You might have a mint. Like Quarry Mountain, we have Quarry Mountain mint and rabbit tobacco. It really opens up your lungs. You could make it into a tea, and a lot of people do make it into a tea, and it is antiviral and very supportive of the immune system. But I think its absolute best use for the lungs is smoking it. And so, Granny and her corncob pipe, you ever see hillbillies? That's rabbit tobacco was what was in her pipe. It was the smoking blend that elderly people used. Instead of tobacco, they'd put rabbit tobacco in the pipe and smoke it.
The flowers or the leaves?
The leaves of the flowers. So we use the leaves. Native Americans where I live, we all use the leaves, not just the flowers. Anything above ground we use.
Yeah, I would add, you can use it as a pillow, like long term. That's a really good way to treat asthma. Things like that too. So you don't have to smoke it. You might not want it if you want to use it every day for a year or something like that. So the pillow does work really well.
Okay, so also it's an herb you don't bring into the house. From the Native American point of view, it doesn't come in. It does help you connect between worlds, especially if you smoke it in the vapors. It helps connect spirits, but it's a plant of protection, and it stops spirits from coming into your house. And so it was left outside. It was braided and hung over the door or put around the door. It was good for up to a year outside, and you replace it every year. So you didn't bring, and then if you wanted to, at the end of the year, you could bring it in the house. But you couldn't bring it into the house before the year was up. It had to be outside for a year. And then it could come in and be in the moisture, but not for the first year. And so there was always kids, so you kind of like got new, one goes out to the old to get the house. And then it worked its magic in the house. So this was a plant of protection. Because invading spirits is huge in Native American cosmology. Spirits of dead animals are going to come and get you because you shot them and ate them. Ancestors are always hanging around. People are walking between worlds. Every animal has a spirit. Every tree has, every living thing has a spirit. So there's a lot of spirit medicine in Native American theology. And Sweet Everlasting kept them all out. Kept out anything that you didn't want in. It was really good to do that. Also, as a tea, it's called Sweet Everlasting because it was considered to extend life. It was an herb for longevity. It lasted forever. Like Matthew was saying, you think it was dead and it would come back to life. It's like the same way in the person. It's going to help you live a long time. You think you can't get over something, you do Sweet Everlasting, you make a tea, you smudge your room with it. It's a smudge thing too. And, it brings new life back to you. So it was considered a plant of longevity. It is a plant that increased vital energy, a plant that helped you get over the really hard, whatever it was you had, the really hard stuff that you had to get over.
That's the same in Russian. It's called the immortalizer.
Right, yeah, it would be similar. So that's Creek and Cherokee. What it does, it helps you live longer, extend your life, increase your vital energy, get over what it is you need to get over that you can't quite shake off. Helps you get over.
Yeah, again, I think it's a normalizer there of endocrine and immune, and it may even be a anti-gene mutation remedy or something.
Yeah, I think it's a DNA repair myself.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, lobelia for respiratory, how would you prepare
It
the
works
two?
differently, and you can smoke lobelia too, and they would smoke lobelia and rabbit tobacco together
Okay.
for lungs and asthma. Yeah, lobelia is a really good smoking herb too.
But lobelia is like a ton of bricks hitting you, whereas
Yeah, that's true.
rabbit
Oh.
tobacco is like a little spirit you
More
hardly see.
gentle, more
Okay.
gentle. And rabbit tobacco is really, it's a dry, pretty kind of dry plant when you touch it, and that's deceptive because it's actually fairly oily. And if you cook it up in the decoction, you can see this. I don't know that you can see it in a t-shirt, but when you decoct it, the oil is split. It's not as oily as Queen Anne's lace, but it does have a certain type of oil to the leaves, not the flowers. So it's kind of makes it a little bit different.
That's the funny thing about the Pearly Everlasting. It has no scent. It's very disappointing when you know this plant. But if you tincture it or decoct it or infuse it, defused it, that's when it's a halfway between infusing and decocting it. Then the smell comes out. It has that same smell. So it can be used. But boy, if you can get this one, you're way better off. So.
And rabbit tobacco, it'll get about this tall where I live. It'll get, over knee high.
It's a little shorter up here, but it is the same species.
How long do you decoct it?
About 15. Absolutely. And it dries really well because it feels so dry already when you gather it.
Yeah.
So it dries really well. And so at Powwow's, they sell the stems about this long in a bag with baggie full for like 7 or 8 hours.
So when you decoct it, before
Yeah.
it's been a year old, or?
Yeah, you can. The year is for protection.
Okay.
It's for protecting your home against spirit invasion. You leave it out for a year. And then you can bring it inside, protects the inside. Because the moisture, then it releases its odor outside of it.
So you can decoct it, but just not let it sit around here.
Pretty much, yeah. You decoct it, you're going to use it. And if you smoke it, it doesn't have to be 8-year-old to smoke it either. You can pretty much gather it and smoke it. Because it burns really easy, it feels really dry. Then you light it up, the oil kind of catches, and it smokes pretty good.
I'm sorry. Did you say that you leave it outside for a year and then you can decoct it?
No,
Oh,
you can
okay.
decoct it at any point.
Okay.
But you leave it outside for a year to protect, you know, your
Those are
home.
good managers.
You know, it's like
What would you use it for on the inside then?
for
After that.
protection,
Oh,
to get rid of spirits. You know, you can put salt across your doorway, that
Or
sort of
just
thing.
for a nice smell.
Or for a nice smell.
But you don't want to bring it in, if you're going to use it, you don't want to bring it inside and be using it. Kind of like your other herbs. You bring your other herbs inside, you store them inside, you just keep using them. This plant you don't want to keep in the house that way. If you're going to use it, you use it. And
Right,
you don't
otherwise-
want
Leave
it
it
in the
outside,
house.
yeah.
Yeah, you don't want it in the house.
Right, yeah, that's a good way to say it. Anyway, that's what I was taught. You know, it's Native
Yago
American
disagreed
tradition.
with that.
Yago doesn't agree with that? Would Colorado agree with that?
No,
Well,
he would
Paul
just,
totally agreed.
no, he would, his grandfather said, don't bring that plant into
Yeah.
the house.
Oh,
That's what I mean.
See, and I did. When I ran across it, and I'm like, oh, this is a cool plant, you know, I knew what it was and stuff like that, and I brought it home, and my youngest daughter, oh dear, you want a rebel 16-year-old, bring bring Sweet Everlasting into the house. I'm like, what is wrong with you? You know, and there's like no control with this girl. I'm like, you ground her, that didn't do anything. She
never
just
had one
was,
of those.
maybe she was 17. Pardon me?
I have one of those.
But it was like, you know, and then I was talking to Paul, and we just got talking about plants and stuff like that, and he says, did I tell you to take that in the house? I'm like, well, I don't remember. I remembered then. Yeah, it will shift the energies in the house. It will shift the energies of the individuals in the house. And for my daughter, she was an uncontrollable 16-year-old girl that could have locked her up in the closet.
Did that
You know?
change when you brought it out then?
Yeah, I took it out of the house, and yes, it changed. Yep.
I bring it in to cook it into the cockpit, otherwise I don't bring it in. It's like the elements don't seem to hurt it. It's really weird. I mean, I've left it on my front porch, uncovered, not even anything. Forgot about it. Oh, there's some rabbit speck over there, next to the plants, you know, on my plant stand. Forget it. 3 months later, I was like, go back. Oh, I can decoct it now. It's still potent. It's just like really amazing. It's like
Yeah.
somehow the elements don't touch it.
Yeah, I left it on my porch, but the wind will blow it away. The elements, all the elements except
Yes.
the wind.
Yes.
It's scattered all over your whole yard.
Yeah, I've done
So,
that too.
do you bunch the leaves or can you just hang the stalk?
Yeah, you can bunch it, you can hang it, you can braid it, and then use it like a smudge thing too. Does Paul do that? Or use it just-
I don't think
See,
so.
we don't have white sage,
Oh,
so you know this is a smudger for us too.
He's pretty restrained on using it.
Okay.
he is. He doesn't, it's a medicine, you know, like I say, it's a spirit medicine.
It is a spirit
You know, and if
medicine,
you don't know
which
what you're doing with the spirits, you know, you don't mess with it, basically.
is-
You
Yeah,
know?
which is why we smudge with it.
Yeah.
And but you know, but they kind of look alike, like the sage and rabbit tobacco. Both have they look very similar. Not the flowers, but the stalks and leaves.
Mhm.
From distance, you can confuse them. But it is good lung medicine. It's great for asthma. It's good for cold, flu. Tommy put it in all his cough syrups. I put it in my cough syrups.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a
despite
good
all this
expectorant.
stuff, it couldn't really hurt anybody. Like, you could put it in anything, give it to anybody, and I can't imagine it hurting anybody. So
No.
For
it's a little
temperature.
different. I mean, maybe for the indoor-outdoor thing and hanging it around, but putting it in anything, it just really is totally good.
It's excellent medicine. Also for, let's see, for constipation caused by dryness.
Wow. Maybe I should insist on that little girl taking more of it.
Did she have constipation?
Oh, yeah, really bad.
Oh, really? That's funny. Constipation caused by dryness, which usually means the gallbladder is having trouble.
Oh, she's a little soda yellowish sometimes, too.
Okay, so I use it as a gallbladder remedy also. So keep that in mind because the oils, you know, the little bitterness of the oils goes to the kidneys, the liver gallbladder.
It's interesting because in that family, I investigated the entire family. In fact, I got a good article on this plant on my website. And there's like innumerable, this is one of those plants that generally all the kin, all the nephalliums, and other Latin names, they're all like cousins, they're all used the same way except for one of them that's very bitter that's used for the gallbladder. So it's
Okay.
like, but they still have that potential.
Yeah, and rabbit tobacco does. And so it's really good, because there's a lot of different reasons why somebody can be constipated. Not enough fiber, not enough water, low thyroid, etc. If you go on and on. And one reason is lack of bile movement out of the gallbladder. And so it's gentle, it's very effective. You can even use this with kids for sluggish digestion and lack of movement, constipation. It's that gentle, and it doesn't taste that bad as a concoction either. And so it's pleasant enough that little kids will.
Yeah, and see the name rabbit, we didn't get into that yet. We did the wild side, but the name rabbit, so for the Southern Indians really strongly, but the rabbit is always associated with starvation foods, especially by the Northern Indians. So in the wintertime when the snow's too heavy, the deer can't get around and they starve to death. And a lot of the game is gone and nothing survives except the rabbits who, they can run on top of the snow. And so you see those pictures of the rabbit running on top of the snow with the hawk comes at the end of the line. And but so when that happens, then like that happened up at Red Lake in the 1870s.
You have a whole different meaning to the rabbit.
So when that happens, then they petition the rabbit to ask for permission to hunt them during the wintertime. So that happened in the 1870s in Red Lake, and they asked, and the rabbit said yes, but in the spring, then we want you to spread food for us in the place where we like to hang out. They mentioned herbs where they like to hang out, where lycopodium and torquil, which are also rabbit medicines because they're also nutritive. So nutritive remedies are rabbit medicines, and that's true also. The nettles is considered a rabbit medicine by the Ojibwe. They use there's a woodland, there's a native nettle. It has the same properties, but it grows in dark woods, not in the barnyards, but it has the same properties. So it's a starvation remedy, but it's an incomplete oil, they say. So you're supposed to boil the brains with it in the stew, and it's even with you can still, like the children that survived that year were stunted, and was a famous incident there. And and also like they look anybody who hunted rabbits on a regular basis, any Indian tribes, they were looked down on as impoverished. Oh my God, it's like you rabbit eaters, So in the South and like Seminole, those days where I was raised there, too. My dad said that it was considered unlucky for a woman to see a rabbit when she was pregnant, because it might make the child weaker, or if she had not yet was not pregnant, she might get twins, and then it would be harder to nourish them. So again, there was that nourishing thing there. There's also like there's a plant, so there's ginseng, and then there's a plant, wild sarsaparilla, which is a lot like it, but it doesn't have all those super duper powers of the ginseng. It's much more nutritive. That in the north is called rabbit root, and that is very nutritive remedy with few hormonal use. So that's another rabbit medicine that goes around here. So that's the rabbit side from our perspective. Everyone on the rabbit. But so I asked Sonia Boyd about this remedy. I said, well, how come it's called rabbit tobacco? And she said, oh, well, the old people noticed that the rabbits like to hang out where there's lots of rabbit tobacco, and so it's open fields and stuff, or it's kind of fields near the woods, and so they figured it must be the rabbit's way of communicating with the creator, so they called it rabbit tobacco. And then another story, that's at J.T. Garrett in his herbal, the Cherokee herbal. He says rabbit was up in, just like bear rabbit and bear wolf, rabbit was up in the mountains and wolves started chasing him, and rabbit managed to get away, and he got into the thicket, and he got away, and finally wolf left him alone, and he came out, and he's all bruised up and scratched up and cut up, and he saw some rabbit tobacco, and he tried it on his wounds, and it was excellent cure. And so this then is a famous Cherokee, I don't know about other, probably all the Southern Indians, famous Cherokee wound remedy like that, very good for cuts, scratches, perhaps bruises, overexertion. The thing about the rabbit again is that, see, if a rabbit gets chased by big dogs, say for 50 yards, that could kill the rabbit. They may get into the bushes and get away, but they get so overexerted, and their skin is very thin. You've seen rabbit skin, and like they'll just bleed. They can just start bleeding everywhere, bleed through their skin and die. So they're very sensitive that way. And they're nervous and scared. They're the only animal I know of that watches you and eats at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like sympathetic, parasympathetic. Like we don't watch our enemies and eat at the same time.
Unless you're in prison, that's what prisoners do.
Oh my God, yeah. And
Incarcerated, that's exactly what you do.
yeah, and well, there were food fights in junior high. Yeah, we should have watched our enemies better, but which is kind of like prison. Rabbit is considered people that need some more nourishment. So it's like a digestive aid, evidently, but because it tastes like a mild carminative too. With the bitters are not very strong, but it has a vanilla-like flavor, but it has a pungent flavor, just like carminatives have, but much more sweeter and milder. But so it increases digestion, but then this hormonal and genetic and immune thing that it really revises too. So born weak or malnourished in some way, or early childhood malnourishment, or not getting your mother's milk, etc., all that. And I remember one asthmatic that I gave a pillow to her for a long time. She said, "Yes, this really helps my small animal self." That nervous, vulnerable rabbit like Hartford. And one woman I gave this to asthma to was when I was teaching at Wendy Fogg's in Maine, and I gave that to her and lobelia separately, but she used them both. And I came back about 5-6 years to teach later. She had real thin skin from cortisone, so it's good for thin skin. It's real good for the skin. And so I came back and I started telling that story about her because I'd heard she'd gotten better through the grapevine. And one of the women in the audience raised her hand and said, "That was me." And I went like, "That was you? You don't look like," just like radiant. Her hair is long. Her hair is like thin and spindly and short. Like her skin looked all like, healthy. And she'd quit her job. And she and her husband moved to another town and opened an herb store. She's really successful. And the asthma was completely cured. And I was like, "Oh my God, you don't look like the same person even." It shifted the energy just completely on many levels. Wow. Also it's a sciatica remedy, and that's an old Cherokee use, but also the homeopaths, that's what they have for it. And it's an impotence remedy. And Tismel's told a funny story there, but I don't always believe all the stories. So it happened to someone, and it might not happen to him, but it happened to someone. Okay, so do you want to say about rabbits first?
Yeah, just a little bit about, I agree with Sandra. She said that rabbits like to hang out around rabbits' backer, but it's a little bit more than that, and she's right from the Cherokee point of view. But something that happens practically, this is what happens is, here's the rabbit burrow. Rabbits only go in a circle around the burrow. So one reason honey rabbits was considered poor taste, because they go in a circle, and you sit right here and you wait for them to come back around. So you get your rabbit dog starts chasing the rabbit. The rabbit will go around in a circle. You just wait at this back, kill it. Or you watch the rabbit trails because they come out to food, and you can kind of guesstimate where the burrow is, or go looking for it and find it, and you come out and you know pretty much where their trail is going to be. You can put your traps in a circle around where you think the burrow is. Yeah, you can. So there's no art to catching a rabbit. It was considered it was an easy catch. If there was any out there, it was an easy catch. It was easy to catch, and it was easy to trap them, get them to keep the same path. And the reason it was called rabbit's wagon the way I was taught is because that's where rabbits like to go poo. So you see
Well, that's one way to communicate.
you see this little pile of rabbit pellets? But then, you know what you notice is the rabbit's is growing in a big circle around the rabbit burrow. So, you find one patch of rabbit tobacco, you walk around, you figure out where the diameter is, and you find the other patch, the other patch, and the other patch. And so rabbit tobacco grows in a circle around a rabbit burrow, or along the rabbit trails. So once you know how to find it, it's easy to find both the rabbits and the rabbit trail. Because they do like to graze and poop in the same place. So it's good grazing land, it's open meadows. But, also it really grows in partial shade. So you can find a lot of rabbit tobacco along the edge of the woods, which is also that little bit of strip of land between the woods in the field or the woods in the ditch. That's where all the grassy plants are growing. That's where rabbits come out and graze. And there too, they'll live in the woods and they come out and graze in that kind of land. They don't generally live in the field. They have the woods to hide in. So there's that. Too, and the reason rabbit meat is considered so poor and not good nourishment, there's no iron in the meat. It's very anemic meat. So that's why it's not nourishing.
No fat in it either.
There's no fat in it
Yeah,
either.
it's weak on oil.
So it's weak in oil and there's no iron. So it's not a blood builder.
It's a desperation of your
Yeah. So it's so rabbit is not building on the body. It's survival food, but it's not building on the body. Also, rabbits are one of the only animals that can die from stress, which is kind of what Matthew touched on, but just didn't carry it far enough. A rabbit can die of a heart attack from the noise of the gun. You don't even have to shoot it. They are jumpy, as he said, and they're very reactive, and they immediately start running, but it's the stress that gets them, and they release this massive amount of adrenaline that your bodies can't handle. So, being jumpy as a rabbit pretty much says you're in fight or flight,
So this would be good for fibromyalgia people?
Rabbit tobacco?
Because their
That's what their
brains are just like
brains are doing all the time. Yeah, absolutely. And their bodies too. They're in chronic flight or fight, and all the muscles are constricted, and they're not letting go. That was a really good thought. Totally true. It's a good lead of thought there. So yeah, it is a good fibromyalgia remedy. It's a good stress remedy. I use it for people that are just totally stressed out. And it goes good with Queen Anne's lace. Sometimes I mix rabbit tobacco and Queen Anne's lace together for people who are adrenally deficient.
it's got that cloud connection.
Yeah, and it just works really, really well. And so rabbit medicines usually have something to do with circles, running in circles. That would be another herb. Herbs that help you not run in circles would also be rabbit medicines. Because that's what rabbits do. They run in circles. They get so stressed they can't go in a straight line and just run in circles, run in circles.
I like to chase mine across the street.
Pardon?
I like to chase mine across the street. They have a burrow underneath the backwood of my house, so when I chase them, I make sure they go across the street.
So they get hit.
No. Just I like to play with them without actually, touching them or getting near their home. So I'll let them run around the yard for a little bit, and then I'll chase them across the street, and then I'll let them come back home.
Yeah.
If you kept chasing them, they would make a circle.
They would make a circle.
Probably,
around.
yeah.
They really would. I mean, they have to
Bigger circle.
visual radar built in. They can't run in a straight line for any length of time.
Yeah.
They can do straight lines out to where the other circle is.
Maybe the leg on one side is longer than the other.
Yeah.
There can be more than one rabbit. There are several rabbit medicines. And sometimes I think Queen Anne's lace is a partial rabbit medicine. It doesn't have the spirit work that rabbit tobacco does, but it does have people not run in circles anymore.
It's pretty circular, isn't it?
Huh?
It's pretty circular, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
With a little spot in the middle.
It does.
Totally what you do.
It's
Yeah,
totally-
it's right there.
It totally is. Another
We call it tobacco rabbit, so we can tell them apart.
Do you think Sweet Annie might have similar actions, or might think it's too different?
I think it's too different.
Well, they both are these normalizers, though. They're your hormone, immune, etc. but they are pretty different. And like for genetic problems, I don't know of anything quite like rabbit tobacco.
Yeah,
Yeah. And yet, if you didn't have a genetic problem, it wouldn't hurt you if it was in the formula.
right, it's gonna be useful either
Yeah.
way, it's just,
Yeah, it reminds me, there's another plant that it's disarmed as a spirit remedy when there's water in it, so, or alcohol either, but it's a balsam root from the Rockies. Like, it has spirit uses, but if you get it wet, it doesn't, it's just mundane.
Is it the sweet Annie?
No, that's called balsam root. Grows in the Black Hills and all the way to Oregon coast.